Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story, I was tricked into this fake marriage. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! In the beginning of the story, the Delay Empire begins a series of invasions, including the country of Sofan. The king of Sofan puts up some resistance, but is eventually assassinated by the emperor's advisor, Kaleid, who is believed to be the reincarnation of evil. During the war, the nobility who refused to take sides were stripped of their titles and forced to live as commoners. The protagonist, Leyrin Ephron, is the only daughter of a noble family and will succeed her father as head of the Ephron family. However, in this empire, you must be married to inherit that title. If she wants to maintain her family's wealth, social standing, and possessions, she will have to follow the norms and find a husband, or everything will be gone. While she is panicking, she comes up with a quick and simple solution to her problem. She considers having an arranged marriage and will search for a partner to marry her for a year. Leyrin approaches the head of the Nige Night Guild, a labor union that is known to be the best at selling private information, to help her find the husband she desires for her contract marriage. Leylin's mother sobs, thinking if she only pushes through with her husband's plans to let Leyrin marry Stan, they won't be having this problem, which Leyrin thinks is impossible because the guy is her own cousin. The protagonist is actually a 21-year-old college student who died in a traffic accident and was reborn as Leyrin Ephron, 21 years old and the only daughter of a count. She is happy to be reborn with a golden spoon, but she's sad since her country is dying. Her father lost his title and her family is exterminated, and marriage is the only option to save everything they have. She thinks of finding her possible husband the soonest, so she lets her mother rest and assures her that she will be fine. Soon after, she checks all the lists of the noblemen in their country but discovers no suitable man for her. Sir Hayden, the vice captain of the Ephron family knights, wishes to talk to her. A 23-year-old noble who is talented, well-behaved, and devoted to his family. Though she feels he would make a good husband, he is engaged to and in love with Sarah, her maid. He then hands her a document and asks her to carefully read it, while our girl here thinks he's about to propose to her. LOL. What he means is for her to carefully look at the list of noble marriage candidates. But the candidate's profile is not guaranteed. However, there is a way to find accurate information through the Nige Night Guild. They provide any kind of information in exchange for money. She dislikes imperial marriage, which allows men to have lovers after marriage, and is concerned that her future husband would be a jerk. Then she realizes that she can just go to the Nige Night Guild to find her a contractual marriage partner to fix her troubles for a year. Leyrin is confused as to why Sarah is crying, telling her that she should make Sir Hayden happy, because if Leyrin cannot find a suitable candidate to be her husband, he will have to fill in. The idea of it is making Leyrin furious. The next day, together with Sir Hayden, they went off to see the master of the Nige Night Guild. Along the way, she mentally prepares herself for her absurd plan to find a man willing to marry her for a year, in order to maintain her family's status and fortune for the time being. Sir Hayden offers to escort her inside when they arrive at their destination, but she decides to enter alone in the dark room and smells a lavender mix. She knows someone is there, but cannot see anything. She demands that the lights be turned on and wants to be seated. He complies by turning the lights with just a flick of his finger and allowing her to sit where she is standing. She can now see clearly and finds the man really pretty. Her chair is a bit uncomfortable, so she transfers to a bigger one. Well, the seat she is now sitting in is actually his bed, which surprises her even more, and she asks how he can sleep in such a small bed. He simply sighs and thinks she's extremely interesting. He asks her directly what her request is, but before she responds, she insists that he put out his cigarette, which he says is a sedative to make him sleep. He then charges her for the next question and continues to charge her as she speaks. She calmed down and asked him how much he would charge her. He demands 3 gold coins from her for the late-night visit without an appointment. She thinks about it before throwing the coins to him, which surprises him because a lady like her can toss money so casually. She doubts his abilities and puts him to the test, asking if he knows the reason for her visit, and to her surprise, he knows she's looking for a husband. After that, they get down to business, with him asking Leyrin what she's looking for and her responding that a baron or lower status noble in their 20s is ideal. She goes on to say that she wants someone who's not greedy for titles and is open to the thought of adopting a child. But he is skeptical of someone of low social standing who isn't interested in titles will agree to marry so quickly. She then adds that she wants a man who is kind, and he clarifies things by asking if she wants a man who likes money and women or a nice guy. He asks her to define nice again. While contemplating her response, she examines the man in front of her, his long legs, big hands, and broad shoulders. And voila! A nice guy for her is someone who is both hot and handsome, so having a better appearance is preferable because, as a countess, she will be doing all the work anyway. As they continue to discuss all the attributes she desires for her future husband, she mentions that she only needs a man to play the part of her husband for a year. He now understands why she doesn't care about a guy who loves money and women, because all she wants is a contract marriage. He asks her if she has any intentions of making things work with her husband once the contract expires, and she flatly declines. He continues to ask her about the contract terms and conditions and the payments. She then informs him that she will provide sufficient compensation for him to live comfortably during their marriage and after the contract has expired. Our girl is rich. As long as he behaves himself in public, she doesn't mind if he sees other women. All she cares about is the welfare of her people. He thinks she's clever for planning a one-year marriage contract, so she has the entire year to find her successor. This is because every spring, the royal banquet is held to introduce the newly appointed family heads, and this year's banquet is scheduled for this month. He inquires about her plans for adopting or having her own child, to which she objects since it's all pretend, so there's no need for intimacy, and opts to discuss the topic with the candidate herself. To conclude their agreement, he asks her to meet him at the capital the next day. The next day, Leyrin prepares to travel to the capital while her mother worries for her. She has no choice but to go, no matter how dangerous it is, and encourages her mother to trust her. The truth is, she is nervous as this is her first time to be away from her parents, and Sir Hayden notices her worried face and assures her that he would protect her till the end. The knights inspect all carriages on the way to the capital, and they learn that the region's lord caused a rebellion but hasn't been arrested, so they are tightening security. Sir Hayden is having a bad feeling and suggests moving with others, instructing Chen to go full speed. Leyrin senses someone behind them, and their carriage starts to rattle. Sir Hayden begs her to keep quiet, but instead, she goes out to check on Chen, who is in danger since a man with a bloody sword is about to attack him. Sir Hayden races for her too, and both of them see the man's sword dyed in blood, his black hair, blood-red eyes, and an endless thirst for blood. She can feel she'll die a tragic death again this time. Just then, she smells something familiar and sees the man go down their carriage while holding his cigarette. She thinks it's sedative, but she uses the chance and maneuvers the carriage at full speed away from the man in black, whom she believes is the crazy killer Kaleid. Meanwhile, an unknown noble learns about Kaleid's return to the capital. From what he knows, the reason why the Empire conquered all kingdoms was to learn more about the star fragments, and Kaleid is supposedly looking for it. 1 week after Leyrin arrives in the capital, she gets so busy with the banquet preparation that she gradually forgets her encounter with Kaleid. It's been 11 days, but they still haven't heard from the guild, and they can't wait any longer for fear that the license will not be approved in time for the banquet. They have no choice but to use their last resort, which is to marry Hayden. She never sees Hayden as an adult because he's like a brother to her, and she has seen him grow. As she is about to sign the marriage contract, a man from the Nige Night Guild intervenes, handing her the information he has gathered from the husband candidates she might be interested in. She then orders Hayden to wait outside so they can start their discussion. The first candidate is young, but seems to be a good fit for her, so she needs more options. The man in the hood appears to be greedy and sells the other candidate's files for 10 coins. She agrees and examines the second candidate's file, discovering that he is a pedophile with good looks, so she removes him from her list. The third is also attractive, but he has 3 wives to support. Though she's fine with it since they will only be in a contractual marriage, but she just can't help but think of him as a scammer. Therefore, he's still a no. She then looks into the final candidate's file and finds his information matches her ideal husband. A 26-year-old baron who has his own business and has no scandals. But she hesitates to look at the candidate's picture. His profile seems too perfect to be true, so she suspects that his face might be the issue. She once again opens the fourth candidate's file and mispronounces Kaleid's full name as Delay Kaleid, trying her best to read the unfamiliar Empire's language. And when she sees the photo, only 2 words leave her mouth, and that is, he's hot. I mean, she's not wrong. That would be my reaction as well. She slams the file shut after viewing the 4th applicant, since she needs to calm down. She can't help but fantasize about the 4th candidate's good looks, which makes her think of Dionysus asking her to be responsible for him, which she really will. Her decision is final, and she has chosen Kaleid. Well, Kaleid did point out the correct pronunciation of the name, but she's really an airhead and didn't realize that it is the crazy killer's name. The man examines her further as to why she chose the 4th candidate. Simply put, she thinks he's a nice guy, aka handsome. The guy can't help but laugh and thank her for the compliment before he starts burning all of the files. Looking at how she just quickly scans the file, it appears she is unaware of the 4th candidate's job. When the guy tells her that the 4th candidate works for 9 Knights, she merely assumes he's a chef. She is so caught up in her own thoughts and remembers the profile that says he doesn't like women, which makes her think Kaleid might be gay. LOL. She keeps trying to remember his profile when the name 9 Knights starts to sound familiar to her. Finally. She realizes that her fake marriage will be with the 9 Knights Guildmaster Baron Kaleid. And while smoking his sedative, he admits that he is the Baron this whole time. But from what she remembers, the man in the hood has blonde hair, so to stop her from mumbling, Kaleid removes his hood to reveal himself. Leyrin is so smitten with Kaleid that she thinks he can rule the world with his good looks alone. This girl is too shook to even recognize that he's the man on top of her carriage. And to receive Kaleid's payment, the two start to discuss their contract. Their contract specifies that they must share a room but are not permitted to have any skinship. And Kaleid wants to ensure that this also applies to her, and she agrees, though secretly, she regrets inserting it in the first place. As for the payment, he wants 4 times the initial allowance, but Leyrin refuses, since after their contract, he will be receiving much bigger compensation money. He is aware of this, but instead of monetary compensation, he desires the Ephron family's ownership of the Turtle Hills on the Shea coast. She intends to give him more, but since this is all he wants, she accepts his side of the bargain. And in order to complete their contract, they sign both their marriage license and their divorce papers at the same time. Before Kaleid leaves, he asks for the payment, and off he goes. Following, Hayden enters the room, informing Leyrin that a carriage from Sir Delisa Ephron is waiting for them. After they get married, Delisa absorbs the Countess's last name since her position is higher than his. So no one from Leylin's side knows that he's the Kaleid. She looks happy and informs Hayden that their mission to find her a husband is complete. He seems relieved since the 9 Knights is a guild that cooperates with the Imperial, giving them an advantage. They arrive at the Baron's manor with Aiden, the butler, welcoming them. He then escorts Leyrin to her room and feels shy just thinking she'll be sleeping in it with Delisa. And from the way the butler speaks to her, it appears that he also is a member of the 9 Knights and is aware of their contract. Meanwhile, Kaleid is somewhere in the palace, having cruelly murdered a noble in front of a huge number of nobles when the Prime Minister, rather than arresting him, demands that he do his killing quietly. Kaleid's guild was formerly an intelligence group under the direct orders from the Emperor until he proposed to disguise it as a guild. He pretends to offer information while murdering nobles who seek knowledge to assassinate the Emperor. When the Prime Minister sees the dead man, he can only sigh and calls Kaleid a crazy killer. Kaleid arrives home to find Leyrin already asleep, and for some reason, he doesn't feel irritated by her presence. He sits next to her and wonders what's so different about her when she suddenly cries in her sleep. Leyrin is having a nightmare. She can smell death everywhere, making her panic. Then she sees a man with bloody hands holding a sword. In her dream, the man lets the sword go, but gets swallowed by darkness till he asks for help. Leyrin grabs him and successfully pulls him out of it and discovers that it is Delisa. All of a sudden, she reaches for Delisa and sobs his name, but when he begins to caress her, she calms down and falls asleep like a baby. The next day, she wakes up not remembering the context of her dream, but she does recall Delisa was surely in it, brightening her mood. Just in time, Anne, her maid, enters her room and requests that she get ready, as her husband has sent someone from Dalia Atelier to prepare her dress for tomorrow's banquet. Leyrin has no clue why she's so excited about it, while Anne sobs as she tells her that the said fashion shop is the greatest house of fashion, and Madame Hain herself came to adjust the dress for her. Soon, Eddie Hain, the owner of Dahlia Atelier, arrives looking so fabulous and greets the countess. Leyrin thinks Hain is super chic, so after a hearty welcome, Hain immediately unveils the dazzling gown rich in gems she has prepared for her. Leyrin tries it on, and Hain begins the final adjustments, all the while filling her up on all the newest trends and latest gossip circulating in the capital. Though she finds it useful, she finds it unusual and wonders whether she is one of the 9 knights. She then naively asks about her relationship with her husband, causing Hain to pause for a while, not expecting Leyrin to begin questioning her, and informs Leyrin that she has simply received a dress order from her husband. But Leyrin believes otherwise, believing that no famous person such as Hain would assist her with her dress. When they finish the fitting, Leyrin invites her to remain for dinner, but Hain's expression looks so terrified that she quickly declines and runs away. Kaleid returns home that evening, only to be disturbed by Aiden, who, on the Emperor's orders, inquires as to whether or not Kaleid has already visited the location where the star fragment might be found. Aiden is shocked to learn from Kaleid that he did not visit the location, as he has been looking for it non-stop up until this point. This is the first time Kaleid has disregarded the Majesty's orders. This is all because Kaleid discovers something more intriguing than the star fragment: Leyrin. She's like a breath of fresh air, and when he saw her terrified expression, his heart raced for the first time. Yep, he finds her faint smile alluring. When Aiden asks if he would accept his title, for the first time he does not refuse, and now he plans to discuss the matters with the Emperor. Aiden then takes his leave while Kaleid lies beside Leyrin. Her hand accidentally brushes against his. He startles and can't believe he's feeling warm, and he even starts to not hear things anymore, which he couldn't do without his sedatives. But as he lets go, the darkness returns. Leyrin could be the solution. Anne's terrified face is the first thing Leyrin sees when she awakens. This is because she has heard that nobles have been murdered at the royal banquets over the past 2 days, and that Kaleid is responsible. Anne is concerned about Leylin's safety at the banquet tomorrow, but Leyrin doesn't think they need to worry too much because if the killer really intended to kill her, he would have done so in the carriage. Today is her first meal with her husband, so she took extra special care to look her best. And when Delisa arrives, he greets her by calling her Rin Rin, and our girl here, blushing, is still processing the way he calls her. Then she follows suit, calling him Del, a pet name that Delisa particularly likes, and the two proceed to dine peacefully. Meanwhile, Aiden fears that Kaleid has already killed the countess, so he checks on them and informs them that their bath is ready. Delisa extends the invitation to wash up. Together, making her malfunction, hit Delisa, and run away. Remember the 3 other candidates? The profiles that Leyrin read about them are actually not true. The guy is not a pedophile, and the other one has no 3 wives. They are actually members of the guild, and everything is planned out by Kaleid, who has already been interested in Leyrin from the start and knows she'll pick his profile the best. When she walks into their room, the scene with Delisa in his nightgown, reading papers, drives her insane. She notices his wet hair and suggests he dry it first before sleeping. Delisa, being flirty, requests her to dry it for him, and while she's doing so, she asks him if the rumor about Kaleid's appearances is true. Delisa tries to avoid the question by acting all cute, so she flies back to her side of the bed and the two go to sleep. The next day, she's busy preparing for the banquet with the help of the maids. One maid asks her worriedly if she knows what her husband's sedative is and suggests that she should remind him to smoke it, or else it would be dangerous. Leyrin merely guesses it's some type of medicine and promises to remind him, making the maids relieved. She looks gorgeous in her dress. Now that she has a marriage contract, all that's left is to finish the banquet and she will be able to control their territory again. And as she descends the stairs, her husband's appearance delights her. Inside the carriage, Leyrin finds Del's new look so pleasing to her eyes. As she stares at him, she recalls the maid's warning about his sedative and brings it up to him. He can't since it's forbidden in the palace, which bothers her because she knows it's his medicine. That's unusual to hear from her, but he assures her that he'll be fine as long as she's with him. She glances out the window and sees a long line of carriages waiting to enter the palace. She's surprised that the soldier let them in before anybody else and speculates that it is a perk of being the leader of the Nige Night Guild. When they arrive at the palace, they are announced as Countess Ephron and Kaleid. Not sure if she's hearing it right, she keeps on checking around thinking the killer is out there somewhere and convinces herself that she simply misinterpreted the language. She notices an oddity in the crowd's reaction and informs Delisa that perhaps that person is present, making him laugh. She starts to get anxious, grabs Del tightly, and decides to trust him. She overhears ladies chatting about her, and she proudly greets them while holding Del. They are unable to move when they see Kaleid beside her, but our girl is so dense that she just thinks that they find her husband handsome and tries to gatekeep him. Just then, a man introduces himself to her as Peyton Fabian, the new Count of Fabian. They greet each other, and as they are about to shake hands, Del slid his hand over hers. Smooth. Then Baron Gerwin interrupts and calls her name, not by her title, which is very insulting. The Baron continues to make fun of her, whether she really got married or not, until Del steps in to claim his husbandly status. The clear announcement surprises everyone, and their reaction baffles Leyrin. The Baron, who has no idea who Delisa is, insults him by claiming that if he didn't have his wonderful looks, he'd be the one for her. Delisa is done being quiet and starts strangling him with one hand. She is witnessing her husband trying to kill the guy with ease, and then Leyrin starts to recognize his red eyes. She quickly grabs him, asking him to let go, while Del just casually asks her why. She then notices everyone is panicking, and not even the royal knights are trying to stop Del. She thinks everyone is acting strange and still denies her sweet Del is that guy. She finally accepts that they do look alike, but their personalities are different. After all the thinking, she convinces Del to let the Baron go and talk to her. Thankfully, he agrees, causing the Baron to collapse and the crowd to go into an uproar. They call him a murderer and recognize him as Kaleid. She cautiously asks if he is Delisa Kaleid, and his denial almost causes her to fall over with relief. He then picks her and innocently identifies himself as Delisa Ephron. Leyrin realizes this is not looking good and fakes a laugh while asking him his full name before they get married. Hearing his response, her mind races with thoughts of her safety. Girl, finally, yes, he is the hottie killer! I'm not sure if he's really a sadist, but again, he finds her worried-faced cute. Just then, a royal messenger reads the Emperor's decree, appointing Archduke Kaleid to rule the kingdom of Sofan and demanding complete obedience to his orders. While her mind is still trying to make sense of everything, she hears him say, "This is the end," which she takes to mean that he is about to kill her. But he actually just wants to dance with her before they go home. She refuses and insists on going home. Leyrin is still shivering inside the carriage and feels even more scared when she catches him staring at her. He tells her to relax, but her mind is still racing over her impending death in his hands. She asks him about his sedative in an effort to calm tensions between them, and with a smile, he says he's fine as long as she's with him. She addresses him formally, but he demands that she talk to him like she did before, and with a quivering voice, she informs him that their contract is void since her terms require him to be a baron or lower. He smiles, leans forward, and asks her if she finds him scary. He believes she is afraid because of the carriage incident, in which she saw him pointing his sword at Chen, and explains that it is part of his work. She thinks perhaps he's not a crazy killer and feels relieved, thinking she will not die anytime soon. Meanwhile, Sir Hayden is horrified to learn that the Countess and Kaleid are married. The butler tells him to be careful what he says because Kaleid has been elevated to the rank of Archduke and will take control over the entire Sofan kingdom. He then warns him not to get near the Duke unless he is smoking his sedative, or he will lose his neck in an instant. Aiden greets them when they arrive home, while Leyrin keeps staring at him, enraged that he did not inform her of Kaleid's true identity. When Kaleid notices the steamy look she's giving the butler, he wraps his arms around her and demands to know why. She whispers to tell him that he doesn't have to pretend to be a jealous husband, but he reaches for her face, confessing he's actually jealous. She quickly remembers that his hands must have been full of her sweat earlier, and so she awkwardly orders him to wash his hands. He quickly realizes what she means, so Kaleid, being naughty, licks his hand instead. Her soul leaves her body out of embarrassment and runs away, leaving him laughing. I have secondhand embarrassment. Sorry, you guys. Anyway, Leyrin together with Sir Hayden and Anne are now discussing their new setup. Leyrin tells them that as long as he takes his sedative, everything will be fine, and she urges them to keep safe and alive while they are not with her. Sir Hayden informs her that though she becomes the archduchess, she will still receive the assets of the Ephron family and will be able to manage their territory as well. The next day, she goes over the entire contract and any other documents that would help her invalidate their marriage, and she learns that higher-ranking nobles require the emperor's permission for marriage. Since she thinks Kaleid's duke title is in the process, he should still be a baron on paper, which means her standing as countess is higher than his, allowing her to revoke their marriage. But then Kaleid arrives out of nowhere and tells her that their marriage has already been granted. She is surprised to learn that he already became duke 2 days ago. That is why he was able to have their marriage approved, and even their contract is also valid since he was a baron at that time. She can't think of any other way out and is convinced that Kaleid scammed her into marriage. At the palace, the mysterious man asks Purcell Hilton, the head maid, if there were any problems during the royal banquet, and discovers there were minor issues, but they were all fixed. He also inquires about the lady that Delisa Kaleid escorted, to which she replies that she is Countess Ephron of Sofan Kingdom. The mysterious man is confused about Delisa's recent actions since he knows his initial plan was to obtain the star fragment. Delisa tells a distraught Leyrin that it is his job to kill to get information. After explaining that he doesn't smoke in the palace because it would interfere with his ability to manage the nobles, he asks her if she's still afraid of him despite the sedative he's smoking. His sedative is like a chain that keeps a crazy dog at bay in the eyes of the public. She recalls the incident and accuses him of murdering Baron Gerwin. To her surprise, he confirms the Baron is still alive and asks her if she wants him to kill the Baron. The old man can be so annoying, but there's no reason to kill him. This time, Leyrin believes that the other documents are useless, so she lets him sign the adoption contract, but he questions if she really needs them now that she has the power of an archduchess. She panics and tells him they only have to stay together for a year. Kaleid does not react and simply agrees. The truth is that he thought he was helping Leyrin since being duchess would give her authority over Ephron and other nobles. He checks the contract and asks her to rewrite her name as Leyrin Kaleid. He's content seeing their names inscribed as husband and wife, wondering what to call their child. Our guy is thinking far ahead. She has no idea what he's trying to say, but the way he starts approaching slowly scares her. He has her cornered and makes fun of her by inviting her to shower together. She has had enough and kicks him, but instead of hurting him, she injures her foot. The following day, a doctor verifies that she has broken her ankle and instructs her to rest. She is now alone with Kaleid, but his lack of sympathy for her injury annoys her, and she starts to make fun of him by calling him ugly. She's such a child. But when she says she dislikes him, his expression looks hurt, so she takes it back, telling him it's a joke. But our guy here backs down from a fight, so he speaks the same words back to her, but adds that she's cute while smiling. He is hardly resisting holding her when Leyrin bombards him with questions, so he has no choice but to use his sedative. He admits that when confronted with a lot of information, he easily becomes sidetracked since he hears everything from the birds on the clock tower to the maids bad-mouthing him on the first floor. As a result, he smokes to help block the sounds. They return to their discussion, and she plans to finish packing and travel home, but she appears to have forgotten something. Kaleid reminds her that Sofan's internal affair is the responsibility of the archduchess, his wife. Her. That means she needs to accompany him to the Sofan castle. She is now preparing to return to Kaleid's castle to fulfill her duty as the archduchess. Her plan to bring home a husband is so not happening, and despite her longing to see her parents, she can't bring herself to tell them that she's married a killer. While she's thinking, Kaleid pops up out of nowhere, causing her to scream. Anne checks on her right away and sees her on the floor, thinking she's dead. Leyrin quickly explains that it's because her broken ankle hurts, and upon hearing this, Kaleid becomes worried and carries her. Okay, people here need to calm down. When she notices him smoking, she takes it from his mouth and swings it around, trying to turn it off. Aiden, who finds them cute, offers an ashtray, but Delisa talks too much, so she puts it back in his mouth, and her fingertips graze his lips. She recalls the embarrassment he caused her, and in revenge, teases him and prepares to lick her finger. But Delisa immediately captures her finger with his own mouth. "Sir, calm down." They enter the bathroom, and Delisa assists her in washing her hands because the cigar she intended to lick before contains a drug strong enough to kill a human. She believes him, but their position is a bit awkward, so she wishes to wash by herself when Delisa rests his head on her shoulder. She's now blushing, but when Kaleid mentions hearing her heartbeat, her anxiety goes up, and she silently pleads for help. And to add to her nervousness, Delisa wants to, devour her. She panics at the sound of those words and starts screaming for help. Okay, imagine a killer saying he wants to eat you. I'll be like Leyrin here. After the screaming, he brings her to bed and does nothing else. She wraps herself in their blanket, grateful that she is still alive, while Delisa is head over heels in love, and though he plans to let her go, the thought of her makes his heart race so fast. The next day, before getting into her carriage, she notices Anne is missing and tries to ask Hayden about it, but Delisa interrupts and tells her she's gone. She becomes serious and wants to see Anne immediately. Delisa, as an obedient husband, allows her to say goodbye. Leyrin keeps interpreting his words wrong, and by saying goodbye, she imagines Anne in her casket. Delisa notices how she doesn't look good and wants to touch her, but Leyrin retaliates by telling him how much she dislikes it when he touches her. Anne runs towards her just in time and apologizes for not informing her sooner that she will be working at the Dahlia Atelier. Leyrin breathes with relief and realizes she's been blaming everything on the killer, Delisa. Anne kneels down, sobbing, and begs her master to let her pursue her ambitions, which Leyrin gratefully grants, even congratulating her on her new job. Now inside the carriage, Leyrin sulkily learns that it is indeed him who refers Anne to the shop's owner. She apologizes for assuming that he murdered her maid, and Delisa simply laughs it off, admitting he can't possibly get mad at her because she's so adorable. He then begins to ask her when she plans to return Hayden and the other servants to Ephron, but he quickly brushes off his inquiry. The truth is, he wants to monopolize her by himself. Given the long ride back to Sofan, the two decide to eat along the way. She can't believe it has been such a stressful month that she hasn't even been able to look around in the capital and has had the misfortune of marrying a killer. But she can't deny that Delisa has the face of an angel. Her weakness. She heard the Emperor personally give Del his surname, Kaleid, an evil god who, according to mythology, devoured 3 other gods. She wonders if he is the reincarnation or if the Emperor is just bad at naming. They've arrived at the restaurant and Leyrin is lovingly savoring her meal while Delisa just loves staring at her eating. Until someone recognizes him and starts talking about how Delisa changed all for a girl, as if Delisa isn't there. He just won't stop, so Delisa decides to throw a fork as a warning, and it barely misses the man's hand. Leyrin learns that the young man is actually the Emperor, and what's more surprising is that the innocently handsome Emperor is already 32 years old. Delisa gets jealous of her questions, so he kneels down in front of her, makes her hold his face to help him muffle the noise, and just like that, she gives in. His good looks will be her downfall, so she decides to just do her best in the next life. LOL. The Emperor returns to the kingdom and wails about how jealous he is of Delisa's new marriage. The Emperor's inability to use his right hand is due to Delisa, but despite this, he insists on keeping Delisa by his side. Something Purcell simply cannot understand. When the Emperor expresses his desire to find an empress with whom he can grow old, he is referring to Purcell in particular, but she disregards it and takes it as an order to find him a woman. They finally arrive and she's now in their room. She can't believe she just met the Emperor, and she didn't expect his nice looks, the same face that orders Delisa to kill. Del discovers her sleeping soundly while Leyrin is experiencing yet another dream. This time, she's near Sears Bay, and sees Delisa with long black hair, sad over something buried. He appears to be crying in the rain, and then she finds him clutching her beloved umbrella from her previous life. He looks at her and turns away. Meanwhile, Del is looking at her helpless body and about to touch it when Leyrin suddenly starts talking in her sleep, stopping him from doing whatever he's about to do. So instead, he calls a doctor and has him check Leylin's broken ankle. And, much to the doctor's amazement, her ankle is entirely healed. But Del wants him to thoroughly examine it because the doctor in the capital indicated a full recovery would take 3 weeks, which scares the doctor, so he just bandages her again. The new attendant finds it weird, thinking maybe being near Kaleid somehow has an effect on Leylin's body, and chooses to report it to the Emperor. Leyrin decides to dine in the staff's canteen together with her new attendant Katie, when she overhears other staffs discussing the rumors that the new Duchess is gorgeous, and that she's the one controlling Kaleid, the war freak on a leash. She chokes on her water and orders Katie to hush so no one will know she's the Duchess. And she continues to listen to their admiration while thinking she looks like an octopus. Clearly, she hasn't looked in the mirror. The Grand Duke, who looks dazzling in white by the way, enters the canteen, finally finds his wife, and then carries her out. She gives him a lot of hits while she asks him to let her go, and when they leave, everyone starts cheering. They have confirmed the rumors, and the way the Duchess isn't scared of Kaleid amazes them. They are now in the carriage, but she can still hear the people talking about them. She then asks Del to sit beside her, orders him to extend his hand, and for the first time initiates holding hands with him. He is taken aback by her unexpected actions, and she says that she notices he continues to take his sedatives and suspects that it is due to the noise from the crowds. If the noise is bothering her, then she assumes Del must be suffering greatly too. Del blushes when he sees how much she cares about him and wonders if she can spoil him more. Turns out, she is his medicine. Like, literally. They arrive in Selen after an 8-day journey to the Sofan kingdom. The rumors have spread all the way to Selen, and who could blame them, since the Duke is always carrying her around? Now in her room, she chooses to remove her bandages and discovers that she is entirely healed, far faster than the doctor predicted. Later, Hayden and Leyrin have a final conversation before he and Chen return to Ephron. She intends to send them back home since she believes they should be reunited with their loved ones. After all, she will be returning home in a year as well. After they leave, she realizes that her hair color makes her instantly recognizable as the Duchess, so she decides to buy herself a wig. She chooses the black wig as her disguise, and it fits her perfectly, giving her the appearance of an adorable black cat. However, upon leaving the shop, people are still glancing at her even after she puts on a wig. She has no idea that black hair is very unusual, which is why they keep staring at her. Suddenly, she spots a familiar-looking man with silver hair, and she tries to run after him, but it's so crowded that she can only call out his name. Delisa finds her in the crowd, and for some reason, she asks him to catch the guy with silver hair who has already vanished, and Delisa can only spot an old man with gray hair. They are back in their hotel room, and it looks like someone is going to be sleeping in a separate room. Del is confused why Leylin's anger subsides as she considers that it wasn't Del's fault and that she might have mistaken the guy for someone else too. To tell you who the guy is? Stand appears to be the cousin she was supposed to marry 6 years ago. She remembers how she stormed out during the announcement, and Stand left Ephron soon after, not knowing he's the current prime minister of the empire. Delisa, ever the thinker, is also giving serious thought to the possibility of them sleeping in separate rooms. Such a cutie. She then takes it back, but wants him to find the guy and specifically asks for his whereabouts only, to which he agrees. He exits the room, informing her that he would pay a visit to the prime minister since he's also in Selen. Meanwhile, Stand is convinced that he heard a woman, possibly Leyrin, shouting out his name earlier. He was selected as her future husband when he was just 5 years old. He fell in love with our lovely Leyrin at first sight, and they have remained close ever since. Leyrin constantly tells him about her previous life, while he merely thinks it's just her imagination. His affections only became stronger, but when she flatly declined their engagement, he was left confused, while the entire Ephron family blamed him. As a result, he fled and was saved from bandits by the Emperor, who discovered him broken-hearted. Poor boy. He has been working with the Emperor to conquer the world. He thinks if he becomes someone of high rank, maybe Leyrin will want him back. That time, he discovers that the Emperor wants something from Sofan, but has no idea where the exact location is, which we know is the star fragment. Moreover, he learns that the Emperor helped him out of compassion for his own heartbreak. They are both experiencing unrequited love. The Emperor is in love with Purcell, a former princess from a northern kingdom destroyed 20 years ago who has ignored the Emperor's feelings until now. They're enjoying a drinking session one day when he meets a drunk Kaleid for the first time. His sedative at the time is a special alcohol that can only last for 5 minutes, and since Stand is known for his intelligence, the Emperor orders him to find a solution to keep Kaleid from rampaging, promising to promote him to Prime Minister if he's successful. Which he did. His success, from creating the new education system to developing Kaleid's sedative and cigar form, was inspired by Leylin's story when they were children. Back in the present, the two finally meet, and Stand informs him about the impending typhoon in Sofan, while Kaleid appears unconcerned, making Stand furious. Kaleid knows that this is all because of his Rinrin, which Stand did not deny, and he takes the chance to ask Kaleid if the rumors are true. Stand, like the others, can't believe that someone as cold as him could fall in love. While Kaleid did not tell him that Leyrin is actually looking for him, but instead warns Stand to stay away. That night, they take the ferry to Sofan, and despite the fact that Leyrin used to be a swimmer in her past life, she is suffering from terrible seasickness. Del is becoming increasingly concerned as she has tried numerous medications and sleeping pills without success. He realizes that maybe the remaining drug in his mouth could help her, and so he attempts to kiss her, but then recalls Stan's warning that as long as he's taking his drugs, his bodily fluids such as saliva and blood should not come into contact with Leyrin or she will die. He quickly stops himself and goes out to find her medicine. The crew saw him jump from the ship but did not see anything in the water. Del can actually fly. Okay, Edward Cullen. He enters a kingdom and demands a medicine that can be taken without water, and so a few hours later, he returns to the ship with leaves all over him and gives the medicine to his wife. She's feeling much better, and Del's relief makes her blush. She still doesn't understand why he's so nice to her. He's in love with you, girl! When morning comes, they finally get to Sofan, where they are welcomed as the new Duke and Duchess of the land. She is amazed at how many people come to greet them, as if they've forgotten that their new leader is Kaleid, the killer. Then the after effects of riding a ship cause her to lose her footing, and without warning, and as always, Kaleid carries his wife to the castle, while the people are loving their public display of love and begin cheering for them. In her previous life, Leyrin had short brown hair, and she actually went to her friend Suhi's house before her accident. Well, she got ditched by Suhi, who informed her she's with her boyfriend, and so it was on her way home when she got hit by a car. While she's on the verge of death, she hears a woman with fiery red hair call her name, Buell, extending out her hand and promising to meet her soon. Just then, Leyrin wakes up from the dream about her past life, still not sure what that woman meant by the promise, and notices a fine man sleeping beside her. She still can't believe Del showered her with so much affection this morning, causing everyone to go absolutely bonkers. Del's reputation went through the roof when he made her his duchess, who was from Sofan. Leyrin now sees that maybe he agreed to their marriage so he could use her to win back the trust of the people. Even after discovering this, she feels as though it doesn't matter, finally realizing that she may be falling for him. The next day, Del shows her around the castle while Leyrin wakes up that this is now her reality, the Grand Lady of Sofan. She can only blame herself for wanting a contract marriage, but then she thinks something strange has happened because Delisa's profile was the only normal one among the candidates. Speaking of the candidates, 2 soldiers walk up to them and inform Del about the people in the dungeon, and while they talk, Leyrin recognizes one of the men as the second candidate, the pedophile. She approaches him, kicks his, and calls him a pervert. Did not see that coming, LOL! The poor guy can do nothing but slowly fall to his knees, while the other soldier explains that Sir Roderick Plupp, aka candidate number 2, actually prefers older women. She apologizes to Sir Plup for the fatal blow, but then asks if it really was a misunderstanding, while Sir Plup, who is still trying to cover it up, admits to being a pedophile, only to be smacked in the head. Now she believes that everything about the candidates is a lie, and that the Nine Knight have been deceiving her from the beginning, while Delisa can only stay quiet, unsure what to say. She's now in the garden and notices that the castle has less personnel, and so she learns from Katie that all of the high-ranking aristocrats are being held in the dungeon, while most of Sofan's soldiers were exterminated except for the Ephrains, who were able to go home safely. She has no idea that she's the only one who paid ransom to free her people, while other noble families thought she was just wasting her money, but the public praised her for it. Now that people love her, she suspects that Del is using her not out of love, but as a tool to win over the people. Meanwhile, Del is concerned that Leyrin has discovered the fake profiles, and more importantly, worries about what she thinks of him now. Well, to his defense, he was charmed by her at first sight. Just in time, Leyrin enters the room, sensing Del's concern and deciding not to make a huge deal out of it. She plans to help him fix his image while she can have Ephraim's land back with no feelings involved. At the same time, the girl with red hair is on her way to Sofan to meet Leyrin, calling her "my star." What could that mean? Leyrin mentions how understaffed the castle is, so Del, on a whim, gives her complete authority to manage their people. She then inquires about the nobles imprisoned and requests to have them released, but in exchange, Del wants her forgiveness for fabricating the profiles of the other candidates, while Leyrin behaves as if she hasn't discovered anything and instructs him to cook something for her as payback. Without letting Del respond, she excitedly informs him that she picked his profile at that time since it said he could cook well. It's not every day we can see Del's confused face. Such a cutie. 3 days later, she returned all female officers to their old positions, leaving just the jobs of head maid and butler vacant. She wants to formally designate Katie as head maid, but Katie declines because she is a member of the Nine Knights and would prefer to be appointed as her private agent instead. She goes over the list of potential head maids, and Bella Dereor stands out the most. Dereor's family owns the largest territory in Sofan. However, Bella stepped down from her duchess position and got their land confiscated by the Empire since she refused to get married. Leyrin decides to interview her, and to her delight, Bella turns out to be both super pretty and friendly. However, Leyrin still can't believe someone like her is fine with doing a maid's work, and is planning not to hire her, causing Bella to cry. She abruptly kneels in front of Leyrin while holding her hands, revealing that she's been wanting to see her since she was 12. Bella recalls how 10 years ago, during Sofan's celebration of the birth of the third prince, she overheard how clever Leyrin is, having mastered etiquette, the alphabet, and laws at such a young age. It's true that Leylin's past has helped her learn quickly, but her father really likes to exaggerate it. Bella goes on to explain that she has always wanted to meet Leyrin, but her letters have been disregarded ever since she mistakenly spoken the wrong words to Leylin's father by demanding to give Leyrin to her. LOL. She begs Leyrin to let her stay by her side and to accept her feelings, almost as if she's proposing marriage to Leyrin. When Leyrin wonders why she didn't marry to protect Dereor's estate, Bella becomes enraged and declares simply that she despises marriage and men. In the end, Leyrin has settled on Bella as her new head maid and now on a search for the new head butler. Although Bella suggests Costello Turner, Leyrin seems to recall that Costello is a woman, which is impossible since a butler has to be on the Duke's side all day. Meanwhile, Del is learning how to cook, and after the quick basics, he's able to perfectly cook 3 dishes to such perfection that the chef herself considers him the god of cooking. Though he can't really taste the food since his taste buds are numbed due to the drugs, the chef and the soldiers seem to love his cooking. He can't wait to let Leyrin try it for herself. But then he sees a sign sticking outside her office stating he is not allowed to enter, and hears someone inside talking trash about him. After her long day, she enters their bedroom to discover a dejected Del, who is now smoking heavily and whining about how she missed supper and the sign outside her office not allowing him to enter. When she sees how adorable he is sulking, She instinctively hugs him from behind and apologizes for not paying him enough attention. Then she quickly let go, claiming that it is an act of friendship and that even though they are on a contract, they should still be friends. Del takes advantage of the situation to hug her from the front. Well, as a friend. And Leyrin hugs him more tightly, sniffing the smell of the food from him. He surprises her with a delicious stew, but she has no idea that Del cooked it. He's glad they're getting closer, but his need for her is so strong that he didn't even notice when Leyrin tried to feed him. His lips briefly brush the spoon before Leyrin resumes munching with the same spoon, causing him to panic. Fortunately, he hasn't smoked in 30 minutes, which could explain why nothing is happening to her. Back in the dungeon, the nobles are waiting for their certain death since Sofan has fallen under Kaleid's control and they couldn't trust the rumors about Kaleid falling in love with the former countess Efren. But then a guard surprises them by saying that the Grand Duchess has given orders for them to return to their positions. Del shows her the sign on the door the next day, which she believes Bella put there. When the two enter the office, Bella looks terrified and quickly hides, leaving Leyrin no choice but to kick her husband out, who looks like an adorable puppy. She soothes him by hugging him, calling him honey, and promising to enjoy lunch together. Bella quickly hugs Leyrin and calls her Buell. After some time, with Leylin's help, she is able to stop crying. When Leyrin inquires as to her obvious fear of the Duke, she learns that Kaleid once tried to kill Bella. Leyrin promptly hugs Bella and assures her that Kaleid will no longer kill since the war is already over. While the once notorious killer is now in the kitchen having fun learning how to cook. Just the thought of his wife makes him blush, especially her sudden actions this morning. But the new head maid is starting to bother him, so he wants to keep a careful eye on her. After a few days, her work is progressively becoming more structured thanks to Bella's assistance. The imprisoned nobles appear in front of her, thanking her, but instead of taking all the credit, she wants them to support Kaleid's leadership, which they accept. Bella appears to be very competent at her job, and she has done work even without Leyrin telling her. Not only that, but their new head butler, Satella Turner, is an outstanding man as well. He has come up with a food reservation plan, which Leyrin approves. She then discovers that Satella never really wants to become a head butler, but after knowing she has completely changed Kaleid, he is determined to help the Duchess in any way he can. She is glad that people are gradually warming to Kaleid, but she worries since this act is only for a year. Leylin's mother writes her a letter, and after reading even a short bit of it, Leyrin begins to cry. Seeing this, Bella goes to get some milk so Leyrin can read the letter in private. While reading, her mother expresses their pride in her accomplishments, and Sir Hayden speaks about how the Grand Duke treats her well despite his terrifying side, and telling her that this may be her mother's last letter to her, in which she transitions from calling her daughter to Grand Duchess and expresses her hope that they can see each other again someday. Leyrin couldn't help but cry. Bella is walking back to Leylin's room, wondering if she will ever recognize her when she starts to tremble at the sight of the Duke. Del grabs the drink from her that she's delivering to Leyrin. After his investigation, he knows Bella's prior name is actually Jeanette Derriere, and after her brother's unexplained death and because her father's now in a coma, she becomes the next heir. Bella talks back, denying her own family, and as she walks away, Kaleid senses a power in her that makes him very intrigued. When he enters the room and hears Leyrin crying, he begins to regret his choice to make her a duchess. He thought a higher rank would make her happy. The next day, she schedules a tea time with the noble family in Sofan to assess the post-war situation and damages. The tea hour is going well until she mentions Del, which is still a long way off. Just then, Del arrives, and she uses this chance to change their impression of the Duke. What's the best way to show it? Through a kiss. Del has malfunctioned after her unexpected request, then pulls her and starts kissing her anywhere but her lips. The nobles have never imagined seeing Kaleid so in love, and how he looks so captivated by the Duchess. Look at that smile! Del is so done resisting and carries her back to their room, unconcerned about the nobles behind them. Bella finds the nobles in tears, feeling safe now that they have witnessed how madly in love the two are. Leyrin has given Del consent to keep kissing her, but she wonders why he starts acting differently, and learns it is because of her scent. She has a scent that has an unusual power that's similar to his, and now he notices that it is growing in her, so he decides to test it by smooching her more. She keeps him calm more than the drugs can do, as if he doesn't see her as a woman. Well, that's what she thought. Meanwhile, Bella is searching for Leyrin, concerned that if Kaleid continues to touch Leyrin, his memories may return, complicating everything for her. Suddenly, a god named Purpla descends, calling Bella her real name, Arbella. It looks like Kaleid has already beaten him and is back to get his revenge. He just pays Arbella a quick visit to inform her that in order to avoid being sealed by Kaleid, they must work together. But she understands that even if they combine their powers, it will not be enough to defeat Kaleid. He also mentions that it's him who's going to be with Buell forever. To give context, a long time ago, nothing could grow on the planet due to a feud between Jed, the fire god, and Purpla, the wind god. And so Arbella, the earth god, starts to intervene, and together with Kalda, the water god, they created the prisoners for gods, and so Kaleid was born. We'll stop here for today, guys. Yes, I know you want more. Don't forget to ask for the next part in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching and for your support. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Till the next one.